"Honey, I'm going out with the girls at work for drinks Wednesday," said my wife Angie. "Wednesday? Who goes out for drinks on a Wednesday?" I replied. "It's April 1st, April Fool's Day. We go out and act like fools," she said and smiled. "We've only been married going on 2 years, and it's been a bit of a bumpy ride. I met Angie my senior year of college, and we got married shortly after graduation when I received my degree in electrical engineering. Angie received a 2-year degree in business management, but actually wanted to be a secretary. If truth were known, she went to college looking for a husband. At least that's what her friends said. I'll do my best to explain how I found all this out. Let me see. Where should I begin? Ever since I was a kid, I would take things apart. Radios, recorders, microphones, and anything else electrical. I needed to see how things worked. I remember my parents always telling me to make sure things weren't plugged in so I wouldn't get electrocuted. I surprised my parents on how many things I was able to repair. I do have to admit, a lot of times I had a few parts left over, but that was all part of learning. As time went by, I got more involved in how things worked. While I was in high school, I won a number of awards in science and received a 4-year scholarship. While I was in college, I even had some patents pending for electrical parts. I was somewhat of an inventor. I took present-day electronics and made them better. I got my patent on a wireless microphone not any bigger than a button. It could hear a conversation of up to 100 feet, and I was able to connect it to a wireless recorder. I wasn't a geek, and I did party a lot. That's how I met Angie, at one of the parties when she came up to me and introduced herself. To say she was a good-looking woman would be an understatement, and who wouldn't want to spend time with a beautiful woman? Angie was blonde with below-the-shoulder-length hair. She was very light-complexioned with an angelic face. Before the evening was over, we became intimate. After that party, we were a couple. We were intimate at least twice a week. I knew she wasn't inexperienced, but neither was I. There aren't many inexperienced people in college, especially attractive ones like Angie. I really liked her a lot, and she said she loved me. We were together for 4 months when I graduated. I started at an electrical firm my senior year, even before I graduated. Angie came by the firm a week after graduation and looked scared. "What's the matter, Angie?" I asked. "I missed my period and I might be pregnant. I don't know what I'm going to do." She started crying. "Everything will be fine, Angie." I thought for a few seconds and blurted out, "Let's get married." "Really? You'll marry me? Do you love me, Brent? I don't want you to marry me just because I might be pregnant." Angie was raised in foster homes and hardly remembered her parents. Her dad was in a prison somewhere, and her mom gave her up and she never saw her again. She was just a kid when all this happened. She had no brothers or sisters. "Listen, we can fly to Las Vegas this weekend and tie the knot. Maybe we'll even let Elvis marry us." Angie was smiling. "I love you so much," she said as she kissed me. Was this a mistake? I really didn't know, but I really did like Angie, and she was one beautiful woman. A guy could do a lot worse, I thought to myself. We flew to Las Vegas and spent 5 days there and got married. I had called my parents from Las Vegas and told them the good news. My dad told me I was smart running off to get married and saving a ton of money. Mom was crying over the phone and wished she could have been there. I came from a wealthy family, and my dad was also an electrical engineer and the head of the department where he worked. He was hoping that I would come and work for him after I graduated, but I wanted to be on my own for a while. I wanted to prove I could succeed without my dad's help. Mom was more of a homebody and volunteered for everything. My parents had a wonderful marriage. My parents met Angie at my graduation, and I remember them saying what a beautiful woman she was. I can't say they loved her because they really didn't get time to know her all that well. When Mom asked me why we were getting married so quickly, I told her that Angie might be pregnant. "Mom, I wanted to do what is right." The honeymoon was great. We got a honeymoon suite and were intimate every day. Watching other men paying attention to Angie made me a bit jealous, but it was nice to know that other men found her as beautiful as I did. She didn't really flirt with anyone but talked nice to everyone. When she was asked to dance, she told everyone we were on our honeymoon and she would only dance with me. That made me feel pretty good. After we got home, we found a nice apartment, and Angie started filling it with furniture. 2 more weeks went by, and when I got home, Angie had a nice dinner made and said she had something to tell me. "What is it?" I asked. "I got my period today. I'm not pregnant. I'm sorry. I didn't lie to you. I really thought I was. Can you forgive me?" What could I say? "Angie, it's okay. I would have liked to have a child or two, but we have plenty of time for that. I should call Mom and let her know since she won't be having any new grandchildren right now. I have an older sister and my parents do have 2 grandchildren, but I thought she might be looking forward to our first child." I called her and she said, "I guess it wasn't meant to be yet. You 2 are young and have a whole life ahead of you. I just wished you would have waited before getting married. After all, you just went together for less than half a year." We ate dinner and Angie said she would make it up to me later. I have to admit that she was quite affectionate. I've always been an easy guy to get along with and rarely argued or got mad. I just took life a day at a time and tried to do what was right. Angie told me she applied for a secretarial position in a large insurance agency that was in the same building as my office. It was a 6-story building and had a parking garage for businesses and guests. Employees received a parking pass, and guests would have to pay or get a receipt from the business they visited. The company I worked for had offices on the 2nd floor, and the insurance agency Angie applied for a position at had offices on the 5th floor. I was working when Angie came into my office and told me she got the position. She was really happy about it, and I was happy for her. She was going shopping to buy a few outfits for work. She mentioned to me that one of her college girlfriends worked there. When she told me it was Sheila, I remembered that Sheila was one of her wild girlfriends. Some of my friends had dated her while I was going with Angie. She was very active socially and partied a lot according to my friends. One day I remember Sheila coming up to me in college and wanted to become intimate. It would have been a no-brainer if I wasn't going with Angie, but I turned Sheila down. It was then that she told me that Angie just wanted me for my money and knew I would be wealthy someday. I didn't say anything to Angie about it, but I knew it would be something I'd have to watch and see how their friendship went. My secretary, Rose, said that one of the agency's bosses, Jim, thought he was a gift to all women, and I might want to warn Angie. Rose was in her 40s, married, and had 2 grown kids of her own. She would be a grandma in a couple of months. I asked her how she knew so much about this agency, and she said that when you've been in the building for nearly 20 years, you hear a lot of things. She mentioned that this Jim fellow was on his 2nd marriage. His first ended when he was caught being unfaithful. "Some men never learn," she said. I told her thanks, and that I would mention it to Angie. Needless to say, I didn't have a good feeling about this. I did mention it to Angie when I got home, and she said that I didn't have anything to worry about. Sheila had already told her about Jim. She was happy to have a good job and something to do besides going to the exercise gym, which was located in walking distance from the office. Things seemed to be going well, and I did talk to Jim at a New Year's party that their company had. I didn't think much of him. I had met him before, but never really talked to him. I didn't like the idea that he kept talking about Angie and what a wonderful employee she was. Normally, I would be proud, but I wondered where all the compliments were coming from. Angie never talked much about her job other than she liked it. They did have an employee Christmas party that she went to with the other girls in the office. Sheila, Barb, and Mary all went to their party. Spouses weren't invited, it was employees only. That just seemed odd to me. Our company had a Christmas party and the spouses attended as well as guests for those that were single. Earlier in the day, there was a kids' party that I attended. Even though we didn't have any kids, I felt I should be there. It was in early February. Angie said she wasn't feeling well and went to the doctor's, and she told me that the doctor said she had the stomach flu and needed to rest for a couple of days. She stayed home and pretty much stayed in bed. I came home early the next 2 days to take care of her. She was taking some medication every 4 hours that the doctor prescribed. I stopped at the local restaurant on the way home from work and brought her home some soup the first day. The second day, she said she was feeling much better and wanted something more solid, and I stopped and picked up some fried chicken. She was up walking around and said she was going back to work on Monday. We weren't intimate for over a week. She said she felt drained, tired, and just wasn't in the mood, but would make it up to me when she felt better. I gave her a kiss and told her everything was fine. When I took out the trash at home a couple of days later, I found her pill bottle that the doctor gave her a prescription for. It was a painkiller. I had to wonder why she needed a painkiller for a stomach flu. I had to wonder if she was telling me the truth. It was the last weekend in March when she told me she was going out with the girls in the office on Wednesday. "Wednesday? Who goes out for drinks on a Wednesday?" I replied. "It's April 1st, April Fool's Day. We go out and act like fools," she said. It bothered me that she wanted to go out and drink with the girls. I thought that part of our life was somewhat over and we would do things together. I couldn't tell her she couldn't go. I thought about following her, but I didn't think I would make a good private eye and would probably be seen by Angie or her friends. She did tell me she was going to drive so she would drink less. That gave me an idea. I could try out one of our newest products. It was the microphone that I had invented. It was the size of a button which I put in a side pocket in her purse. I had it connected to the wireless receiver recorder that I invented. It would record for a distance of up to a mile. I put the recorder in the corner of the trunk of her car under a blanket. It would record for up to 8 hours, so I put it in her car as she was getting ready to go out. I did have a remote start for the recorder, but it was only good for 100 feet. The recorder would shut off automatically. She said she would see me in a few hours, and off she went. Things have been a bit strange ever since her stomach sickness. I was hoping that maybe I was overthinking these things and everything would be fine. I've been reading too many stories lately about unfaithful wives and often wondered if Angie might be unfaithful to me. Damn. I hated thinking this way. I had dozed off in my favorite chair when the phone rang. It was Angie. She said she had drunk too much and was unable to drive. Angie: "Honey, I drank too much and need you to come and get us. Joe, Mary's husband will be by to pick you up and we can take our car home. I'm sorry." I guess that was better than driving drunk. Maybe they did just have a few drinks and I was overthinking everything. Joe pulled up out front and I went to meet him. Joe was in his 50s and a pretty decent guy. He and Mary have been married for over 30 years and seemed to get along fine. I asked him if he was mad or aggravated having to pick up Mary. He laughed and said he and Mary had an agreement ever since they got married that she shouldn't be afraid to call him if she needed him. She has done it quite a few times, but he would prefer to pick her up than her being drunk or riding with someone who was, in this case, Angie. We arrived at the lounge, and the 4 women were still having a drink. Joe laughed, and Mary stood up and said, "There's my man," and kissed him. She was pretty well along, as were the other 3 women. I told Joe I would take the other 2 women and drop them off at their homes, and he and Mary could go on home. Sheila kept looking at me, but she wasn't really smiling. I wasn't sure what to make of it. She was the only single woman in the group. Barb I didn't know that well. She has been married about 5 years and is a little more quiet than either Sheila or Angie. Angie smiled at me and said that Mary thought she should call and let me drive everyone home. She hoped I wasn't mad at her. I told her I would much prefer her to call me than drive intoxicated, and I would guess her friends would prefer it too. I looked around and saw a few men staring at the women. The place wasn't very crowded, seeing it was a Wednesday night. "We're tired from fighting off all these men all night." She then looked over at me and said, "April Fool." We didn't fight them off. Barb laughed and slapped her on the arm and held her finger up to her mouth in a shh manner. Angie just laughed. I didn't think a whole lot about it as I walked 3 drunk women to the car. "What all did you women do? I never heard of celebrating April Fool's Day." "Oh, we just play games and acted silly," replied Barb. All 3 women were acting giddy and were quite intoxicated. "It's a woman thing," said Angie. "We can't tell men what we do. We just joke around and have fun. We don't do anything wrong." "So why did you ladies drink so much?" I asked. "It was a drinking game we played," Sheila responded. One person would make a statement, and if everyone has done it, then the woman making the statement would have to take a drink. What if one or more of you didn't do this thing, whatever it is? I asked. Then the ones who didn't do it would have to take a shot, Sheila responded. We can't tell you anymore, we said too much already. They all started giggling. I dropped Barb off first and helped her to her door. Next, I took Sheila home and she spread her legs as she got out. I could see her undergarments and she knew it and smiled at me. I couldn't help but stare. I walked her to the door and she told me if I wanted to see more, I could stop by any time. I knew she was drunk but had to wonder if she knew what she said. She staggered and reached over and grabbed me inappropriately. I couldn't help having a reaction after what I had seen, and she asked if she had done that to me. I opened her door and she invited me in, saying Angie wouldn't mind. Angie was passed out in the car, but I knew better than to go inside and told Sheila good night and walked back to the car. All kind of thoughts went through my head as we drove home. I've been true to Angie since we got married and hoped she had too. I helped Angie into our apartment and began undressing her. Her undergarments were damp. I could tell she had been excited at the lounge. She was awake now and said, "Let's be intimate, Brent. I want to make love right now. Come on, baby, I need it." So we did the deed. As she lay there, I thought about Sheila and even pretended I was with her. She fell asleep before I even got off of her. I slipped on a pair of pajamas and went out to her car and retrieved the recorded disc and decided to replace it with another. I felt it was wrong to spy on my wife, but I had to wonder what these women talked about. What got my wife so excited? I put the new disc in, wondering if they would talk about their night out the next day at the office. I put the recorded disc in my home office desk drawer, thinking I would listen to it over the weekend. Angie got up for work and was a bit hungover. She did remember us being intimate the night before, but didn't say much about their girls' night out. She apologized again to me for having to come and get her. I told her that was a lot better than her driving drunk or having some other man driving her home. She dressed for work and left shortly before I did. When I drove into the parking garage, I pulled up near her car and started the recorder with the remote starter, and then parked my car and went into the office. I got my mind off my wife and into my job. We were updating the wireless and remote capabilities of video and audio equipment. It was a new age in communications, and our company was one of the leaders in innovation. I was proud to be part of it besides making the big bucks. Just before closing, I received a call from Angie. She told me she had to go away on a business meeting on Friday and would be back late Saturday. When I asked her who was going, she said, her and Sheila, Jim, and Alan. There wasn't much I could say other than I would miss her. She said we could make up for it on Saturday night after she got home. I did tell her that would be nice and hung up. We talked a little about her trip that night, and I told her I didn't think much of Jim and knew he flirted with the woman. She told me it was strictly a business meeting and she and Sheila were sharing a room and Jim and Alan another. I had nothing to worry about and she would see me Saturday night. Sheila stopped by the next morning and drove Angie to the office. Angie had a small suitcase since she could never get all her stuff in an overnight bag. I remember her telling me one time when she was dressed attractively that, "To look this good, it takes a lot of preparation." I had a hard time at work on Friday keeping my mind clear and went home after lunch. I brought in the second disc from her trunk and took the first one out of the drawer. Before listening to them, I had to ask myself if this was right to invade Angie's privacy. I knew I would feel bad about it if there was nothing incriminating on them, which I hoped would happen. I thought back to how things changed throughout the years. My parents and grandparents seemed to hold it together more than my generation. In college, it was all about physical relationships. Yes, we studied, but looked forward to our weekends. I've been with more women than I can count. The women of my generation were pretty much there for the asking. We never talked about it, but I'm sure Angie and Sheila were from that wild girl group. I left that all behind me when I got married and hoped that Angie had also, but I wasn't sure. I was always able to put on a good front, but at times my insides felt differently. I took out disc 1 and began to listen to it. I would fast forward through the dead parts. On arriving at the lounge, the girls all agreed that whatever happens or is said at the lounge stays at the lounge. They ordered drinks and started talking about some of the men that were in the bar. I heard Sheila say, "I'd spend time with him," about a few men that were in the bar. I heard Barb say, "So would I if I wasn't married," and all the women laughed. "What about you, Angie?" asked Sheila. "I haven't drank enough to answer that question," laughed Angie. "Ask me again when I'm a little drunker." They didn't ask Mary, but Sheila suggested a drinking game. It was the one where you admit something, and if the others haven't done it, they would have to do a shot. If they all did it, the one asking the question had to drink a shot. I guess tequila was the shot of the night. They started out with simple questions like, who was intimate before marriage? Sheila said it wasn't fair since she wasn't married, so they all drank a shot. More questions like, who's had certain intimate acts? I was surprised when Angie asked about certain intimate acts. I heard her laugh, and Mary said she doesn't really like doing certain things, but she loves Joe enough to do it for him. Sheila asked about being with a married man other than her husband. "Wow, that's kind of personal," replied Angie. "Oh, come on, Angie. We all know you were with Jim." "We all have," replied Barb. "I haven't," replied Mary. "He's tried, and I told him if he ever puts a hand on me again, I would file harassment charges against him, and that was 5 years ago. You young people live by a different set of rules, but I married Joe for better or for worse, and have never been unfaithful to him. I trust him and he trusts me. I will never break that trust." "Oh, come on, Mary. Being with someone else doesn't hurt anyone," said Barb. "Once or twice a year it feels good to be with someone else, but it's just physical." "What do you think, Angie? You haven't been married all that long. Have you been with anyone besides Jim?" No. I've flirted with a few guys, and a few at the gym got a good feel here and there, but Brent and I usually go out together and almost always end up in bed." "I'd like to get Brent in bed," laughed Sheila. "I bet you would," said Angie. "But he's not that kind of guy. I actually think he's been true to me. Damn, he's good in bed. He always satisfies me." There were a lot more questions, and I heard Barb ask if anyone's had a certain medical procedure. She said she had one in high school. After that, she took preventative measures till she got married and now has 2 beautiful kids. Sheila said she never did but has taken preventative measures since she was a teenager. Mary said she didn't and never would have if she got pregnant. She did say she was never with anyone else other than Joe since they got married. Angie sounded nervous when she said, "Please keep this a secret. I had a procedure a few months ago. I was with Jim at the Christmas party and was afraid it might be his baby rather than Brent's, and I terminated it. I just couldn't take the chance. Brent and Jim don't look at all alike." "Does Brent know about this?" asked Barb. "God, no. He'd leave me if he found out. I told him I thought I was pregnant and he married me. There is no way he would accept me doing this not knowing if the baby was his. It was when I took a few days off saying I had the flu." "Can we talk about happier things?" said Mary. "This is pretty depressing. What you girls do and the way you live is wrong. I won't judge you, and I do care for all of you, but this wild lifestyle is going to catch up to you." I wasn't able to think straight. Angie fooled me into getting married, and when she really did get pregnant, she terminated it, and the baby might not have even been mine. She was unfaithful to me with her boss. What the hell was I supposed to do? I taped the conversation without her permission, but I knew I had to do something about it. I knew I could never trust her again. After that, the girls decided to dance. They would come back to the table and talk about how forward a few of the men got. Mary refused to dance with any men, but did dance some fast songs with the girls. I heard Angie mention hands on her inappropriately, but she always pushed them back up. Sheila said that she let a couple of guys get too friendly, but she was single and she liked the attention. It was a few minutes later when Mary told Angie she was too drunk to drive and called Joe and had Angie call me. On the second disc, there wasn't much new said. Angie asked the girls to please not say anything to me. They agreed that it would only stay between them, but Mary told her she should straighten up her act and forget the extracurricular activities, or her marriage would end up in divorce court if I was any kind of man. Next on the disc was when I heard about the overnight meeting and Sheila telling Angie to pick her man. She has been with both, but she told Angie that if she's never been with a black man, she should give Alan a try. Then I heard them both laugh. I was a mess and knew my marriage was over. There is no way I could ever trust Angie again. Deep down, I knew she used me and made a fool of me, and I wanted a little revenge not only on Angie, but on these two men as well. I copied the part of the conversation about Sheila having been with both of them. Also, the part about Angie and Barb being with Jim. It wasn't much, but it packed a wallop. I had copies ready to send to Jim and Alan's wives and also to the head of the insurance company. On the insurance company's copy, I also included where Barb said they all were with Jim. I made myself a copy about Angie being with Jim and all about the procedure. I included a part from the second disc where Sheila told Angie to pick her man. I would send this disc to me at my office. I couldn't let anyone know I illegally recorded the women, so it would be hard to use it in court against Angie. On Saturday morning, I went to the doctor's office on the prescription bottle, and it was a women's clinic. I told them I wanted records of the procedure. At first, they denied me, and I told them that I didn't sign any approval for the operation. I would file a case in court, or they could just give me a copy of what they said I signed. They pulled out the papers and checked my signature, and they didn't match. They apologized and gave me copies of the procedure and said it was paid for in cash. Now I had the pill bottle and the paperwork for the procedure. I mailed out the copies of the disc so they would all get them the first of the week. I would just have to act like the loving husband till then. When Angie came home, I wanted to ask her which guy she was with, but I kept my feeling to myself. I had to act as normal as possible. I actually took her out for dinner, and she told me about their meeting and said it was rather boring. I had no idea if she was with anyone for sure. When she went to the restroom, I removed the microphone from her purse. I had already taken the recorder out of her car. I didn't want any of this to fall back on me. We went to bed, but it wasn't love. It was physical. She got into bed not saying anything, and I went to sleep. The next morning, she told me she was a bit surprised at how intense I was during our intimate time the night before. I just told her I guess a change of pace is good for everyone. She gave me an odd look but didn't say anything. Sunday night was pretty much a replay of the night before. The intimacy was intense, but I didn't approach her the same way. She did give me somewhat of a strange look before turning off the lights. When I got to work on Monday morning, I pulled up behind Jim's vehicle and pulled out an ice pick and flattened all 4 tires. I could have done something electrical, but it would lead people back to me. I took the elevator up to the 4th floor and got rid of the ice pick and went back down to the 2nd floor and to my office. I did my best to keep busy. I waited till 11 and called Angie and asked her if she wanted to do lunch. She sounded very nervous and said she would like to, but some people from the main office were there and wanted to talk to all the secretaries. At the present time, they were in a private meeting with the 3 bosses, Jim, Alan, and Fred. I asked her what it was about, and she said she didn't know, but no one seemed very happy. I told her to call me back when she heard something. It was after lunch when we received our mail. I received the disc I sent myself and asked Rose to put it in our DVD player. She was shocked by what she heard. I acted shocked to hear it and immediately called Angie. "What the hell is going on? I just received a disc that said you were unfaithful to me with your bosses. Is it true?" "Brent, we need to talk. Someone said that I was with my bosses. It isn't true. They said that Barb and Sheila did too. Just so you know, I received a copy of a tape where you said you were with the guy. It was your voice. Also on the tape it said you had a procedure. Is it true? Did you have this procedure?" "Brent, wait, we need to talk. I don't know where this came from, but I didn't have a procedure. Please, you have to believe me. I love you. I'm going home now and we'll talk when you get there. As of right now, I don't believe a word you're saying, and if this is true, we'll be getting a divorce." I hung up the phone and headed for home. Angie got home 4 hours later. She said she was held up because the police were called when all 4 of Jim's tires on his vehicle were flattened. She actually asked me if I had done it. If it was me, I would have blown up his damn vehicle. Now tell me face to face, did you spend time with him and then have a procedure? He sort of made me spend time with him, but I didn't have a procedure. How do you sort of spend time with someone? How many times were you with him? I asked. Brent, please, we can talk this out. Jim and Alan were fired today for taking advantage of the secretaries. It won't happen again. Who did you spend time with over the weekend? Did you get your first experience with Alan, or have you been with black men before? What are you saying? This isn't like you to scream at me like this. I love you, Brent. You have to believe me. I played the short recording that I received at the office. I do believe you. That is, I believe what you said on the tape. If it was a one-time thing, I might have been able to get over it, but not this. I pulled out the pain pill bottle and the procedure papers. You lied to me again. We're trying to put it out there and you lie again. You had a procedure and ended my child's life. I will never forgive you. Please, Brent, we can get past this. I promise it will never happen again. You're right. It won't ever happen again. I'm getting a divorce. You can have the apartment and the furnishing as well as the bill to pay off the loans. I'm leaving. I called my dad and have a job waiting for me as soon as I get there. I can't afford this place on my salary. Please, Brent. We can work this out. You work it out. I packed my bags and will stay in a motel tonight and see the lawyer first thing in the morning. If you're smart, you will just sign the papers. It will be irreconcilable differences unless you want to fight it. You have your vehicle, the apartment, and the furnishings. I don't ever want to see you again. She was crying and said she thought Sheila did all this. When I asked her why, she told me that it had to be someone that was at their table for their April Fool's Day party. Everything that was recorded was said that day, or at the office the next morning. I told her that when she saw Sheila again to thank her for letting me know the truth about my wife. I grabbed my bags and headed out the door. I checked into the motel and spent the next few hours at the bar. I knew I was drunk. A woman asked me if I wanted help getting to my room. I looked up and saw Sheila. What the heck? I said out loud. How did you know where to find me? I called around until I found you, replied Sheila. What do you want? I asked. I know everyone is blaming me for sending out these tapes, but it wasn't me. I have no idea who sent them. Jim and Alan were both fired over this, and I heard their wives got a copy also. God knows if they will stayed married. I had no reason to break up all these marriages. I just wanted you to know that I didn't do it. I believe you. What do you have to gain from all this? I'm just glad I found out the truth. I remember you telling me in college that Angie was just marrying me for my future earnings. I guess you were telling me the truth. I also told you I wanted to be with you, and that was the truth too. You told me not as long as you were with Angie. You're not with her now. So how about a goodbye encounter? Smiled Sheila. I did spend time with Sheila that night, mostly out of revenge against Angie, and I was sure Sheila would tell Angie she was with me. But it wasn't as good as it was with Angie. I guess that had something to do with the feelings I had for Angie. I always gave her my best. I went to the attorney the next day and he got my divorce papers started. I stopped by my office and let them know I was leaving. It didn't surprise anyone, but they did say I would be greatly missed. It would have been hard working there with everyone knowing I married someone who wasn't faithful and was made a fool by her. Besides, she still had her job and I wouldn't want to run into her all the time. I had a week's vacation coming and used it to get settled in an apartment in my old hometown. I went to my dad's office and met with the board and was hired immediately. Dad took me on a short tour of the facility and introduced me to the people I would be working with. I didn't realize how many women became engineers. My dad laughed as he introduced me to them. I would be taking a slight decrease in pay since I was starting over, but I only had myself to take care of, and money wasn't one of my problems. I was back to work in no time doing what I loved to do. A couple of my female co-workers mentioned that they were happy to be working with me, and if I needed anything to let them know. I got a call from my lawyers who said I was once again a free man. I called my old office and talked to Rose and asked her what the latest gossip was. She told me that Angie kept the apartment and Sheila moved in with her. I guess Angie believed her when she told her she didn't know anything about who sent the tapes. I had to wonder if she told her about our time together. As I already knew, Jim and Alan were fired and both were served with divorce suits that weren't finalized yet. It was Alan's first and Jim's second. The two of them started a small, independent insurance business of their own. The secretaries all got to keep their jobs, but were reprimanded for not coming forward and reporting the harassment. Even Mary got the reprimand for not telling the harassment 5 years before. I said goodbye to Rose and told her to take care. She wished me the best and told me she liked working for me. She also said not to let my marriage and divorce to Angie deter me from finding the right woman. Life goes on. And that's the end of today's story. If you enjoyed it, please give this video a thumbs up and drop a comment below. Your support helps the algorithm push my content further. If you're new to the channel, don't forget to hit that subscribe button. It really helps me keep creating more stories for you. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.